Hello and welcome to Nithrania YouTube channel. My name is Branislav Berec and you're watching my top 25 games of 2022. So the games that were published in 2022. I always like to do top 25 because in addition to top 10, which are always the best of the best games, I like to give a shout out to some other games which I believe should be mentioned in these kind of lists because I liked a lot of game from the previous year, and top 10 is, for me personally, top 10 is a very small number of games, good games that are that should be on the list, because looking at my 11 positions, 11 to 25, there are some really interesting games, maybe not the top 10 but interesting to be mentioned, and maybe you will be inspired, and you will check out some of them and maybe even buy some of them. So that's the reason why I do top 25. I want to mention good games which I liked from 2022 and to give you some inspiration if you missed these kind of games, or you've heard about something about those games but not sure. If you see it on other list, maybe you will be inspired. So that's it. I like to do this list in March, April, because a lot of games which get published or released at the end of 2022, let's say early December or late December, they come to my table very late. So they maybe February. Some games actually arrived in March and made it to my top 10, to be honest. So that's why I like to wait and give my list after I played, obviously not all the games, but as many games as I wanted to play from 2022. So without any further ado, let's get started. And let's start with number 25, which is another T game from the so-called T series. This one is Tilatum from Board and Dice. It's the game from the same series, so there are dice. There is some dice drafting. There are 6 actions in the game, and you are drafting dice every round. And when you draft a die, when you take a die, you take some actions. You get some resources, and you perform some actions. In general, you're gathering resources, moving your pieces across the board, and spend resources to build some cathedrals. I'm not really talking a lot about the theme because, let's be honest, the theme is not very strong in this game. But I really like this dice drafting mechanics because there are 6 actions, and each action has one value of the die assigned. And when you take the die, the value of the die determines how many resources you get, and the resources are determined by the color of the die. So similar to Tekken, similar to other T games, similar concept. But this one, you get the die, you get number of resources, and then you get certain number of action points, and the action you take is determined by the position of the die. So the die color determines the resource, the die number determines the number of resources you get, and then the position determines the action. And the more resources you get, the fewer action points you get, and vice versa. So if you take the die with value 1, you get 1 resource, but you get 6 action points. And this is a very interesting twist because you need to balance the number of resources you get with the number of actions you want to take, because you want to take a lot of actions, but you also want to have resources. And there's a disc in between or in the middle of these actions which rotates every round. So the action which provided a lot of action points last round may give you only 1 action point this round. So very interesting twist to this T game. I like it a lot. I think that I still like Teotihuacan much better than this one. Teotihuacan seems to be my favorite from all these T games, but Tilatum is not that far away. I enjoyed it. We played it 3 or 4 times, and I enjoyed well, maybe not a 4-player game, but 2 and 3-player games were fine. So 25, Tilatum. 24 is very small game, very nice looking game called Astra. It's a game, it's not really roll and write, but thematically we are marking the stars on the cards, which illustrate constellations, star constellations. Uh, there are very few rules how to mark these stars, and each player has a marker of a different color. It's a very it's a light game, light to medium. It's more like light game, lightweight game, aimed for families and casual gamers. But I enjoyed it as well. It looks really nice. It has a very nice graphics, and the gameplay. I enjoyed the gameplay. It's not very difficult. It's not the brain burner, and looks beautiful. Feels really well, and it can be done in 1 hour. So a lightweight family type of game. Astra, my number 24. Then 23, Wayfarers of the South Tigris, which is the which is another game from this is from the new series, but the old series of the West Kingdom. So architects, paladins, viscounts of the West Kingdoms. This is another game very similar to these series, but this one starts a new series, but has the same graphics, very similar mechanics, and I think I like Wayfarers the most of all those 4 games so far. Somehow I like it is much smoother. You on your again there are many cards around the central game board. Thematically, you are somewhere in Baghdad in 10th century, and as an adventurer, you are mapping the land and seas and the stars around Baghdad city. So there are cards which represent this traveling across the land and the seas, and there are the star cards which are scoring cards, and in the middle of the game board you have your game piece, which is used to write down uh, your observations, and you need lots of symbols, and you need to match the symbols to move along that track. And I liked how smooth it was. It again, the theme wasn't really very strong, as with many other games like this, but I liked how the game went very smoothly, and it was really easy to understand what you need to do, how to do it. Again, you use some dice to represent certain actions you can take, but you also build your own tableau, the land that you have discovered or explored. The same for the sea and then same for the stars. So your tableau is building really, really beautifully. The graphics is really nice. And as you build up your options, you improve your actions. And I just enjoyed it really. Better than Architects, better than Viscounts. I was not a huge fan of Paladins, but this one, I think I played it 3 times and enjoyed it a lot. So number 23, Wayfarers of the South Tigris. I'm interested to see what the other games in the series will be. This one seems to be, for me, the favorite. Then 22, Starship Captains from Czech Games Edition. Unlike the previous, unlike the Wayfarers or Tilatum, Starship Captains is again lightweight, light to medium weight, almost a family type of game. And I remember that we played Starship Captains after very heavy and difficult Euro games that we brought back from SM. And after 5, 6, or 7 games, heavy Euro games, we finally played Starship Captains, which was a beautiful, easy to play, easy to understand, enjoyable experience. As I said, light to medium weight game where you have a very nice mechanics of your own crew, and you try to rotate that queue and simply assign your crew members to certain actions, and those actions are very simple. You are moving your ship, you are fulfilling some missions on certain planets. Easy to teach, easy to understand what you need to do. You still do some interesting, meaningful decisions in the game, and it was such a pleasant experience to play. I really enjoyed Starship Captains. Um, After all those heavy Euro games, I felt like this was exactly what I needed to play, and enjoyed it. As you will see, I actually enjoyed it more than many of those heavy Euro games. So Starship Captains 22. 21 is a Euro game. It's a worker placement game with some twists, and it's a very thematic game. And that's what I liked a lot about this one. And it's called Come Together. This is a game in which you are trying to organize a festival, musical festival, and it's very thematic because you are trying to um, get the music bands to your festival. For them, you need to build the stages. You need to build tents for the visitors. You are trying to attract the visitors as well. And then finally, when the D-Day comes, you need to have the right visitors for the right the band for the right bands, because you want to match them. You don't want to have a rock fans visiting some psychedelic music concert. So you want to have rock fans on the rock band's concert. So very thematic, and the worker placement is very simple. You have some discs which represent your employees or your helpers, and you place them on certain action spots. And once one player activates the action spot, everyone takes those actions. So you don't take the action immediately, and after placing them you get some bonuses, and after activate them you get some bonuses. And this activation moves your marker on the media track. Since it is in 60s 70s, there's no Facebook, there's no internet, but the media coverage is in radio, in television, and in newspapers. And again, as you move on these tracks, you get some bonuses. There are some other bonuses from some other tracks. Very, very interesting. Again, easy to learn, easy to play, fun experience. I liked it more than those other heavy Euro games. I will mention those games at the end of the video. But this one, Come Together, number 21, I still have it in my collection. That's how I enjoyed the theme of this game. And I really enjoyed those music bands have a very thematic names that resemble the names of board games. So you will find, for example, Four Wonders. Not Seven Wonders, but Four Wonders. There are some other names that don't come to my mind right now, but every single band in the game has this funny name. So very, very thematic. I like it a lot. Come Together. This was one of the most pleasant and most innovative experience, to be honest, in last year. 21, Come Together. Now number 20. Number 20 is a heavier Euro game in which you are moving on many tracks, and it's called Federation. Thematically, you are one of the galactic states, so to say, and you're trying to enter some galactic federation. You need to deserve your place in that federation. So there's a competition. Now, in terms of game mechanics, there is a worker placement, but you don't have workers. You have some discs which are double-sided. One-sided is a funding side, which means you place it in some sort of a senate, and with the funding side of the disc, you are funding some projects. If you turn it the other way, it's a vote with 1, 2, 3 votes for certain, for the left wing or the right wing. So you either vote for something or you fund a project. And then, depending on where you place it, on which action space, you take actions. And there are 5 big tracks on the game board. I'm not going to describe all of them, but basically in every single one you do something else in each of them. but the more you advance on these tracks, the more victory points you can get at the end of the game if that particular track will be scored. And whether or not it will be scored is determined by those projects that you are funding with your discs. So this is a beautiful balance. You need to make sure that you are taking actions which fund the area where you have advanced the most. On the other hand, you need to take some other actions as well in the game. But when you vote, you can score some significant amount of victory points based on two scoring conditions for the left wing and the right wing of the Senate. So you want both and you need to balance it, and all players are trying to do the same thing. Very, very clever idea. The theme is, again, another not very thematically strong Euro game, but I enjoyed the gameplay. I played it 3 times minimum, I think, and I enjoyed all of them. And I still have the game, and I'm looking forward to play it again. Very simple rules, actually quite simple rules compared to the weight of the game, but very interesting decisions, meaningful decisions. I enjoyed it a lot. So Federation. Now number 19 and 18 and 17, all these 3 games are much lighter. We are getting into much lighter games than the heavy Euro games. And number 19 is Long Shot, the dice game. It's a party game, it's a betting game. There are 8 horses in the game, or 9. I don't remember exactly. But a small game board. You are moving horses along the racetrack. And it's not about which horse wins the game. It's about players have a chance to bet on certain horses. And it's similar to Downforce. But this one I like a lot more because this is roll and write. Every turn you roll dice, 2 dice. One of them determines the color of the or the value. I mean, it determines the horse which is moving right now, and the other die determines the number of spaces it moves. But based on other game mechanics, some other horses may move with this horse as well. You may mark some spaces on your small, or some areas, or some spaces on your own player board as well. You get some bonuses there. You may bet on some of the horses, and you can obviously manipulate these horses. Which one moves? Sometimes you can move some of the horses forward, sometimes backwards. So it flows really well, really fast, and I enjoy it equally as much as the Downforce, but this one is much smaller game, and there are some small details which make it for me even more favorite than the Downforce. But I like both of them still a lot. So Long Shot, the dice game, beautiful betting game, lots of fun. This is a party game, lots of fun. I like it very, very much. The number 18 is another betting game, another game with horse racing, to be honest, and it's ready set bet. This is really a party game, and now it has the application. The game again. There is a horse racing. There are 12 not 12, maybe 11. It's something like Settlers of Catan. You have 2 dice, 6-sided dice, and each horse is a number. So 12, 11, 10, and the last one is 2/3. And you roll the die. You roll both dice. The number that you roll, that's the horse that is moving. There is a straight track, nothing else. But if you roll the same same value twice in a row, there is a bonus movement for that horse. And it's a very small bonus movement for the number 7, which is statistically moving the most frequently. And there is a big bonus, big move forward for horses with numbers 2 or 3 or 12 or 11. So even though they may be very much behind in the middle of the race, if you roll that number twice in a row, they jump forward and may actually win the race. And there's a big board in the middle of the table, which is something like a roulette, and each player has a couple of tokens, and you bet on these horses which one is going to finish first, second, third. Then there are many other options, like the 5 will end the race ahead of the 8, or ahead of 2, or ahead of blue colored horses. And with the application, because one player can roll dice for these horses, or you can use the application, which does everything for you. My favorite way of playing it. So the application does everything. It has beautiful commentary, beautiful atmosphere, and you can set the speed of these moves. And if you set it to like 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds, it really becomes really hectic and lots of fun. Especially the more players you have, the better for this game, party game. But I've seen some players playing it quite like a Euro game, trying to wait for the last moment. But if you wait too long, those betting spaces will be then occupied by other players. Wow, lots of fun. Beautiful game. Ready, set, bet. Then number 17 is a very small box called Cat in the Box. Trick-taking game. I like trick-taking games. This one has a very interesting twist in that all the cards have the same black color. I mean, the cards don't have any color. They have the values, but the color is determined at the moment you play the card. There are 4 colors, obviously, again, is as in many other trick-taking games, and one color is the trump color, but you determine the color of the card when you play it. And that's the biggest twist. And it is a lot of fun. You are trying to win the tricks. You can even bet on how many tricks you win. If you do, you get some bonus. But the number of tricks you win, that's the number of points you score. But you can win just one trick. But if you guess correctly that you only win one trick, you can get bonus points from some small player board, a small game board in the middle of the players, because there is every time you play a card, you have to mark it on this board. So only one player can play green 3. Once you play green 3, you mark it on that board, and nobody else can play the green 3. They can play green other number or 3 of another color, and if you have these colors in the adjacent to each other, these tokens, then you score more points. So you don't only play these tricks, you also try to have these tokens adjacent to each other on that board. And it's really quick, it's fast, easy rules, really easy rules. And the way that you can manipulate these numbers and colors, wow, I like it a lot. It got sold out in SN in just a couple of hours, and I was so happy to grab a copy. And it is one of our most favorite trick-taking games. It's really fast. A 3-player game could be easily half an hour. So I enjoyed it a lot. Cat in the Box number 17. Number 16 is the latest Uwe Rosenberg farming themed game. It's called Atiwa. It's definitely not another Agricola. It's more like a medium weight game. Thematically, players are trying to train the families. I believe it is somewhere in Ghana. Atiwa is a large area where families train fruit bats, which eat the fruit, and then as they fly during the night and they search for food, they actually disseminate these seeds across a very large area, and they can reforest the area themselves. So very thematic, educational could be said, but In terms of the gameplay, it's another worker placement game. You have three workers, you place them on certain actions, and again, you gather some resources, you spend the resources, and you're building your own farm with cards, and on these cards you can place trees and fruits, and again, it's a Uwe Rosenberg game, so you need to feed your people and your animals breed. So you have some animals there, you have the families, and you have these bats, obviously, and these bats, they fly out during the night. I really enjoyed playing this game because it's very pleasant. I think the best expression that I have for this game, it's very, very pleasant to play. And there are few strategies how to win the game. It's not just you do everything, or you do just one thing and that's it. You have to focus on the families because that's what the game is about. But then there are few possible strategies how to win the game, and I really enjoyed. As I said, it was a very, very, very pleasant experience. It wasn't as tough as Agricola, and I didn't feel like I can achieve everything in the game. All other tableaus looked completely differently, and I just enjoyed it a lot. So Atiwa, number 16. Number 15 is a game which was I had no idea about this game, uh, and one of someone mentioned it in the comments under one of our videos that this is a game which is coming out, and whether we have the game, whether we're going to make some gameplay, and I looked at the name and I had no idea that this game is coming out, and it's called Bear Rate. It's a stock market manipulation game. There are companies in the game. Those companies have shares you can buy and sell, and they have the shares value and some events and dice, and players can manipulate these dice because based on the value of these dice, the events will move the share price up or down, and that's about it. And the game goes every round you have two actions, starting with the first player going to the last, and then going from the last to the first, and you only have 4 possible actions. Very simple rule set. I mean, really maybe 3 A5 pages. Very small rule set. Very simple rule set. I like it a lot. But the strategic options you have there, you can buy shares, you can sell shares, you can take some dice so that you manipulate the value of those dice, and you can place some dice on the event card, meaning those dice will be distributed and rolled. So again, that's another way how to manipulate those events, the outcome of those events. And you try to buy shares at a low price, sell them at a high price. You can actually short sell. So you sell what you don't have, a very unusual concept for people not familiar with these financial tools, financial manipulation tools. So you can sell what you don't have, but if you make that company bankrupt, you don't have to pay back anything, which means that's the way how to gain money. But if it comes back, you have to, whatever you sold short, you have to buy it back. Very, very simple concept, but so much fun because you don't know what, if you are first to act, you don't know what the other players will do. If you don't want to be the last one to buy shares, because if the company is interesting and people buy shares, then there are no more shares for you to buy. If you need to watch what other players are doing, because if two players are trying to bring the value of a company down because they have short sold the company, it doesn't make sense to fight them and buy those shares and trying to make to bring the value up, because you will be fighting against two other players. But if there's another one there helping you, it could work. But you need to see what you need to watch other players what they're doing. Very few actions. and we all loved the game. We all, except for one person who didn't like it as much as we do. But this could be played as a party game, so you don't really think too much, and then you will be surprised at the end of the game what the result is. Or you can spend a lot of time thinking and evaluating the positions of other players. They're trying to guess their intentions, so it can be played both ways. And since we are competitive players, we played it more competitively, not really as a party game. So it can be interesting, tough, and a little long if you really think hard. Because although we only have few options, we spend a couple of minutes, really, literally on almost on every turn. So bear rate, I like it a lot. The number 14 is another heavier Euro game called Sabika. Again, thematically, you are building some area around palaces somewhere in Arabic world, I think. Well, as you can see, the theme isn't very strong. Again, that's another it's another Euro game with not such a strong theme. But I really like the gameplay. There are 3 rondels. Uh, there's like a big circle, and there is a rondel on the inside, then in the middle, and then on the outside. And you have 3 workers, one in each rondel, and on each rondel you do different things. You get the resources, you spend resources, you build some buildings, you help build some palaces, and then on the inner rondel, thematically, there were artists who carved out poems to these walls. So these poems are then scoring cards in the game. So again, you are gathering resources, building something, trying to get some scoring cards, and fulfilling these scoring conditions. And the way how you manipulate, how you move those workers. I think there's a merchant. There is this poem, whatever they're called. But as you move them, you need to time it well. You need to carefully choose which actions you buy, when you do those actions, which actions you take, when you buy resources, because they can be cheaper. When you build with more expensive resources, you get more points. You also move on the river, which simulates some trade, and you want to have the best scoring, or the scoring cards and poems which are the most suitable for your current strategy. I really enjoyed playing it because the timing on these 3 rondels that provided very interesting and meaningful decisions throughout the whole game. It didn't take too long. There are, again, I think like 6 actions, 6 relatively simple actions, easy to explain, easy to understand what you need to do, and lots of strategic options. So I really highly recommend Sabika. Number 14. Then number 13 is a very unique game. Very, it's an asymmetric game. It's called Crescent Moon. I am not a huge fan of asymmetric games like Root. I mean, I like it, but if I'm to propose a game, it would not be in my top 50 to propose, to be honest. And especially, I hate teaching these games because it's you need to teach the base rules, and then the rules for each and every faction in the game. And other people need to know what those other factions can do and should do in the game. They need to know how those other factions score victory points. So it's like explaining 4 or 5 games for one game. And people get tired very easily, and this is best played with people who know how to play these factions, who play it regularly. And again, that's the reason why I'm not a huge fan of these asymmetric games. With Crescent Moon, it was different because most actions are the same for all factions. I mean, you may move your troops, you may build something, you may attack. Not all the factions have all these actions. For example, nomads don't build, or there are some war bands who just they are um, pillaging the villages and cities, so they don't really build. They are good at attacking. There are other factions which build, but some factions don't recruit units. They may get them some other way, but they don't recruit units. Some factions don't have their own cards. There's one faction which has a lot of cards, but those actions are quite similar for all the factions, except that some factions simply don't have some of those actions. But 95% of these rules are the same for all factions. The asymmetry is in how each faction scores victory points, and that's very unique and very different for each faction in the game, but highly thematic, and I would say quite easy to understand, because one faction wants to win a lot of fights and battles. The other faction wants to build cities and preserve the wealth of the cities. Other faction wants to build some palaces, maybe. The nomads want to trade as much as possible and gain a lot of money, and they buy victory points with money. It is very thematic, and it is much easier to teach than the games like Root, for example. But it's not that easy to understand what those other players are doing and what their actions will be. And it is played on a very, very small and tight map. From turn 1, round 1, players are heavily interacting with each other. And that's what I like about this game. It is tough, it is interesting. In the first game, you're just learning what you do. In the next game, it's like coin games, coin war games, but simplified. But because it's simplified, I enjoy it a lot, and it looks beautiful, and it takes a while to understand or to remember how other factions score victory points, but since all those actions are basically the same, it's easy to predict, or it's easy to remember what other factions can do, and then you can think more about your strategy. So that's my number 13, Crescent Moon. Very unique game, very unique asymmetric game. I think this has a tendency to rise higher the more I would play the game. Then number 12 is much more simple game than Crescent Moon. This one surprised me. I have to say this one I was inspired by who was that? And I don't recall, but I just spotted it in some weekly review or monthly review somewhere, and I enjoyed I liked the graphics, I liked the idea. It's called Orichalcum, and once we tried the game, we were so surprised that it is relatively simple. Again, I said several times already that I liked a lot of simple games. It was relatively simple to play. It's not really unique, it's not innovative, but it was so beautiful and easy and pleasant to play, still with many meaningful decisions. It reminds me of Cyclades, whatever you pronounce it. You are building your own island, because thematically you're Atlanteans, the land is sinking, and you need to find another land, another space to live. So each player is building their own island. You're drafting these land tiles, and each land tile comes with certain action. So you take the tile and you take the action. Few simple actions. Obviously, there are some enemies. You need to fight those enemies on your own island. But few simple actions. You need to be able to recruit units. You need to be able to get some money, and you score points in several different ways. And the first player to score 5 points wins the game. And it is once you have 4 victory points and there is a risk that you might win the 5th one, the players balance each other because they don't want the other person win the game. And once you are close to victory, obviously other people are trying to prevent that victory. I was so surprised how a simple game, not really innovative at all, very very simple actions, simple concept. We I think we can play it in 1 hour or in even 45 minutes as a 4-player game, and how much we all enjoyed this game. And we played it several times, and we still enjoyed every single game. And I believe it's actually going to be localized into Czech language as well. But I was surprised that such a simple game, uh, simple concept, how much we enjoyed it. And again, I will repeat it again. I enjoyed it more than all those heavy Euro games. I'm getting older, I think. And number 11 is another example, and everything which I said about number 12 applies to number 11 as well. Number 11 is Trekking Through History. Another lightweight game. Really, this is a lightweight, simple, family type of game for the non-gamers or casual gamers, in which you are just building the timelines of historical events based on the year in which those events happened, and you are trying to build as long timeline as possible. The more cards you have in the timeline, the more victory points you score at the end of the game. If you cannot continue the timeline, then you start another one. So you may have 3, 4, 5 timelines during the game. Ideally not 5. That's too much. You wouldn't score too many points for that. And you draft these cards, or you take these cards from the general display together with some tokens, and you place these tokens on your own player board. You have a different player board every round, and as you place these tokens on the board, you can score additional victory points, or you get some bonuses. And when you take the card, it is called Trekking Through History. So every card you take has a certain time value, and players have their own tokens on the. It is a pocket watch, but it's actually pretty large on the table, and that's where players move their tokens, and whoever is farthest back goes first. So similar to Glenmore Chronicles 2, similar mechanics. Whoever is in the last position in terms of the player order goes next. So if you take cards with value 1, like 1 hour cost, because there are 12 hours, so 12 spaces. If you take a card which costs 4 hours, you move forward, then you need to wait until other players make their moves. So very easy rule set, easy to teach. Looks beautiful, has beautiful graphics. It has the neoprene game board, which is only used for tracking the victory points and placing these cards. Fantastic production, easy rules, so beautiful to look at, easy to play, and we enjoyed it so much that it's my number 11. It also almost made it to top 10. The reason it's not in top 10 is that it's really lightweight, but we use it as a filler very often. And when we have new people coming to our club, this is one of the first games we take out, and everyone is having fun. So, Trekking Through History. Okay, coming to top 10. Number 10, Crossing Oceans. This is from PD Verlag. It has the similar graphics as other of their games. PD Verlag is a publisher of Concordia, which is one of my favorite games of all times. And Crossing Oceans has a rondo where you move your marker and take actions, which is one of my favorite game mechanics. And thematically, you are building the fleet of ships cargo ships or ships for transporting people. And again, very simple rule set. You can buy ships. It's about who has the most money at the end of the game is the winner. So you buy ships, then you use ships for the transportation, which generates money. You can transport cargo. You can build some trading stations in various locations. And as you place those ships, newer and newer ships, you replace the ships of older ships of other players or your own ones. And anytime you buy ships, you get some tokens with those ships, and you're trying to get the fleet of the ships of similar type or of the same type, basically. Because the more ships you have from the same type, the more victory points you score. Very, very simplified description, but there are, I think, 6 or 7 actions in the game. Most of them very simple. Buy ships, pay money, buy ships. Done. Pay some money, build a train station, trade station. Done. Do the transportation, so you generate money. You count the numbers on the ships and gain the money. Easy, very easy. It's really fast. Downtime is minimum. When's your turn and you have to buy the ships, you need to think about which one. Sometimes it's good to buy cheaper ships which you don't even use for the rest of the game, but you get that token which provides additional scoring for all your other ships of the same type. So many interesting strategic options, similar to Concordia. I mean, strategic options similar to Concordia. Similar to games like they also did Imperial, and Imperial 2030, which uses the same rondel game mechanics, lots of options, lots of strategic ways how to win the game. Very easy explanation. So my number 10, Crossing Oceans, highly, highly, highly recommended. For many people, it is similar to Navigator. It's like an evolution of the Navigator. So if you like Navigator, Crossing Oceans, in my opinion, is much better. Then number 9 is a game which suffers from the actual situation in the world, I have to say, but I really love the simplicity and the game mechanics of the game. It's called Catherine the Great, the Cities of Tsarina. Catherine the Cities of Tsarina. It's a game, very simple card-driven game, in which you are trying to spread your influence on the map. But you only have 12 actions in the game. There are 3 rounds. In each round, you have 4 turns, and each turn you place 1 card into your tableau and another one which activates one of your existing cards in that tableau. And that's the action you take. And there are 3 major strategic ways how to win the game. You can spread as many cities on the map as possible, or you can build a big network, or you can keep your hand limit very, very small and generate victory points from scoring some symbols symbols in your tableau. But because you don't have the limit, you would be able to draw more and more cards, but every time you are not able to draw the card because you are at the limit, you score 1 victory point. And this way you can score many, many victory points if you play correctly and keep your limit very, very low. If you keep the limit high, you have more options so that you can spread those cities on the map. Again, I'm going to repeat the same thing. Very simple rule set. I can explain this in 3 minutes, maybe 4. Such a simple game. And there are so many different and difficult decisions you need to make every single turn, because you need to watch your symbols, how and if you can use those symbols to generate some points for you. Or are you going to spread the cities? Or are you going to get points from, there are some other symbols on on those cards, which compares a military power to your neighbors, so similar to Seven Wonders mechanics. So there are really 4 or 5 things that you need to watch during the game, but everything you do, it's just 12 simple turns, and that's the whole game. 12 simple turns with few simple actions. And all the actions are basically explained by symbols on the cards. Very, very simple and so deep, so strategic. We played it many times already. Every time I'm trying different strategy, and it looks like all those strategies are viable and they all can work really well if you execute them well. This is not about luck, it's about execution of the strategy. How you plan your cards, which cards you play, prepare for the turn, which ones you activate. Wow, fantastic game. That's my number 9. As I said, it suffers from its theme, and there have been discussions. It could have been rethemed. Oh, anyway, I think it just suffers from the theme, but in terms of gameplay, fantastic game. So that's my number 9, Catherine, The Cities of Tsarina. The number 8 is the game from theme is very, very generic. It's a space theme, and it's called Space Station Phoenix. Apologies. This one is a very interesting engine building game in which you build your engine by dismantling your engine. Because thematically you have a fleet of spaceships, and you need to build this space station Phoenix somewhere in the space, and for that you need lots of metal material. So you have to dismantle your ships to get the metal for building your space station. Now your ships, your fleet, represent actions you can do, and not only you but other players as well. So each player has a set of 9 cards, and these cards are your ships, and each ship gives you one type of action. And again, there are a few, 5 or 6 types of actions you can take in the game. Some of them just give you resources. Some actions allow you to gain material. Some actions you can use to dismantle your ships. With other actions you build the space station. And I think there's an action for trading your resources. And that's pretty much it. As you build your station, your space station, you gain more tiles. These tiles provide some bonuses and victory points. And there is a central diplomacy board. That's another action. When you take the diplomacy action, you move on these tracks. And every time you take certain actions, basically everyone is involved in every single turn. Because one person takes the action and all players get some bonuses based on their position in that track, on that track for that particular action. So even if you are not playing, you still get a small amount of resources, and then when it's your turn, you can use those resources to do your actions. And then again, other players are taking their actions, you get some small resources, and there are so many strategic options in the game, so many ways how you can develop your engine. And the best thing is that you can use actions of other players. So if you dismantle your ships, your fleet, you can still use the actions on the other players' boards, other players' fleets. Obviously, for that you need to pay them some resources, but you can limit which actions are available. You can limit some building options, or you can limit the diplomacy options. So many strategic ways how to play the game. It is a little longer game, but I enjoy variability. I enjoy in simplicity, simple with lots of depth, lots of options, and many strategic ways how to win the game. And also the fact that you need to dismantle your fleet, so you need to reduce the number of available actions to actually progress in the game. Very interesting concept. I was really impressed with this one. So Space Station Phoenix number 8. Now, number 7 is one of those games which got to my table either late February or maybe even early March. And with this one, I was just again watching some kind of a summary, monthly, weekly summary, and I saw this game, and I immediately knew I want to try it, and it ended up as number 7 for 2022 for me, and it's called Mille Fiori, abstract game, with a similar nature as Azul. So you are placing ceramic tiles on the game board, and based on the placement you score victory points. That's pretty much what you're doing in the game. And there is also a very simple draft, because in Azul you can place place those tiles anywhere you want. Here you have few cards in your hand. You choose one, you place it in front of you. Every player in the game does the same at the same time. Then you move all other cards to the player clockwise, and then each player one by one is going to play the card and take the action. And the card you play determines where you place your ceramic token. And based on the placement, you score victory points. There are 6 tracks or 6 different areas on the game board. Each scores the points in a different way. And you never know what other players are going to do. So if I'm the 3rd player in the player order this turn, I still have to choose the card, place it in front of me, and then move the remaining cards clockwise. So after I see what the first and the second player did, I cannot change my decision. I already have the card in front of me, and I have to use that card. And there is a high interaction in this game, because we don't play on our own player boards like in Azul. Here we have one central player board, central game board for all the players. So we all play on the same game board, and there's a high level of interaction in the game, and that's the fun part. Trying to guess what other players are trying to play, whether I'm going to be able to score the points, as many points as I want to, or someone else is going to take it. Very, very interesting. Strictly abstract game, no theme. Maybe there is something, but it's strictly abstract game. Easy to explain. Again, simple rule set, so much depth, so much replayability. After my first play, I immediately fell in love with this game. The more we played it, the more I liked it. So number 7, Mille Fiori. Now, number 6 is another game which is medium weight with the really strange theme. It's called First Red, and looking back at my list, I see so many games that are light to medium weight with simple rule set, but I'm just having lots of fun with these games. Definitely more fun than with many heavy Euro games. I'll talk about them at the end of the video. But coming back to First Red, this is a crazy theme. There are Reds who that read about moon made of cheese, and thematically you have 4 pieces, 4 Reds. You are moving on the track, and you get the resources. You try to build your sort of a ship. You have a calculator as your a terminal for the ship. As your computer station. Your how do I say it? Calculator is your control panel for your ship. It's all really the theme is super fun. I like it a lot, but the game mechanics are also very interesting. The track has each space has some sort of resource on it, but each space has a different color, and you can move your own piece, your own red, up to 5 spaces, or you can move all your reds on the game board, up to 3 spaces, but every single one must end the move on the space of the same color, but they must be different spaces. So you can move slowly all your pieces, and every time you end your movement on a space, you gather those resources or you take the action there. Or you can take one, go very quickly, get to the top, you make it a Reto astronaut, and for that you score victory points. You score points for building the ships, you score points for accumulating the cheese. That's another thing you can do. It's one of the actions. So you actually don't even have to care about making your reds to as astronauts. You can just gather as much cheese as possible and store it. So that's another way how to make points. So again, several ways how to win the game, several strategies that are possible in the game. Up to you how you're going to play it, how you're going to run your astronaut team, and very easy to explain. This game has been loved by players and non-players and experienced gamers and non-gamers, and we played it. I have to say I played it 9 times minimum last year, or since we got the game, and really enjoyed every single play of this game. That's why it's on my number 6. The theme helps helps a lot, but the gameplay mechanics, really cool, clever idea how to do simple game mechanics, and it provides lots of depth, lots of strategy, and lots of replayability. So that's why number 6, First Red. Now number 5. Number 5 is a game which is a really heavy Euro game called Carnegie. Carnegie is a how do I say it? Is it a worker placement? I'm not sure if I call it a worker placement, but it's a very thematic game. I have to say this one is maybe not very thematic, but it is thematic game because each player has a player board which represents a building. It's a company, and each company has departments. So every space in that company is one department, and you have your workers, your meeples in those departments. And there are 4 major departments, 4 major areas, because each department has can have different specialization, but there is an HR department, there is a logistics department, for example. And players take turns, and during the round, one player chooses one type of action, and then all players take the same, or all players activate the same department, or all spaces with that department. You may have different actions, but you activate all your departments of that type on your player board. And you are trying to, again, build, get some resources, build buildings on the map. The map is a map of US where you build lots of different buildings. You build public buildings, you build commercial buildings, residences and stuff like that. But for that you need to have some resources, and you can send your meeples on a business trip, so to say, on a mission. When they come back, they will earn you some money. When they come back, you can reassign them back to these departments. You need to train them, so you need HR to train those people as well. And that's why I say it's very thematic, but it's very thinky. And again, there are many different strategies how to win the game. And I love the mechanics that one player takes the action and or chooses the action. Everyone takes the same action in the game, and you can use it strategically, because you can see that if I choose this action, it helps me a little bit, but it completely it doesn't help other players at all. If I choose the build action and I see that players don't have any meeples that can be sent to build something, yes, I'm going to use it. Or I'm going to use my HR action to train my people, so to send them to the departments, make them ready for other actions. when I see that other players don't have anyone in their lobby, they have all the action, all the meeples trained, so I'm going to use the action to my benefit and not really help others. On the other hand, you need to watch that you don't pick the action which helps you moderately, but you help two other players way more than you. So all these things, it is very interactive. You need to watch what other players are doing, and wow, interesting, clever design, lots of decisions, difficult decisions to make. Every single turn is a difficult decision. Even if you activate your departments, you don't have to activate them. You may save your meeples for later, because if you do activate them, obviously you need to pay them as well. There's a lot that's going on in the game. This is a heavier Euro game, but it is moderately themed with a moderately strong theme and fantastic gameplay. So Carnegie, my number 5. Now, number 4, talking about simple games, number 4 is a little box with 48 cards, and it's called Mindbuck. It is a very light version of Magic the Gathering and similar type of games, because you only have a deck of 48 cards. Those cards are various I wouldn't call it the monsters, or like creatures or whatever you call it. And it's a 2-player game. Both players have 3 lives, and you're trying to get the life points of the other player down to 0. And on your turn, you have only 2 options. You can either play 1 card or attack with 1 card. That's all you can do. If you attack, the other player may block. If he doesn't, he loses a life point. All those creatures have different attack values or strength. Let me say strength, because it's just one number, and that number acts as the attack and defense at the same time. But every time you make a successful attack, you only make 1 hit. Regardless if you attack with a creature with value 2 or with value 9, doesn't matter. You just you make 1 hit. But when you play the card, the other player has the option to use a Mindbuck card. You have 2 for the entire game. And when he uses the Mindbuck card, he will steal the card from you. And this is the absolute beauty of the game. You need to know when to use these cards and which creatures you want to steal. Again, it is highly dependent on what you have in your hand, what is currently on the table. Sometimes the creature with value 2 can be the most powerful creature in the game, because it has a certain, like I think it's called sneaky, what is flying in Magic the Gathering. So it can attack, and other creatures are not able to block that creature. Sometimes you want to play a creature which gives you the same number of health points as your opponent. If you have 1 and the opponent has 5, that's what I want to play. Because if it's stolen by my opponent, he will get 1 hit point. He will get down to 1. So you want to save this card. The entire game is about when to play, and you don't pay anything for playing the cards. There's no mana, there's no currency. You just play the card, attack, potentially block. That's all you do. So simple. Extremely simple. So much fun. I mean, it's not as heavy and complex and epic as the Magic the Gathering games and other types of games, but it is like a extraction of the best fun, best parts of the fun from Magic the Gathering, and in a very, very small box. It is like a filler. It's so quick, and there's just I think the Kickstarter has just finished the Kickstarter for the expansion decks or standalone decks, whatever. I don't even know what it was. It was an instant back for me. That's how much I love Mindbuck. Such a small deck of cards, 48 cards, and so much fun. in just this small box of cards. Way more fun than in heavy big games, very expensive games with lots of pieces and material. This one just pure fun. Mindbug, number 4. Then number 3 is the game which I had zero knowledge about when going to Essen. Somehow I missed it. And when we tried the game at Essen, it was an insta-buy for me, although the copies were not available. So that's why we had to wait a couple of months until we got the copy from the so-called second wave. And this is The Wolves. This is a thematic game. This is really a thematic game because each player controls a pack of wolves and you score victory points. There is a central map, game board, or it is a map made of several tiles, and each player is trying to score victory points, and you have different ways how to do it. You can spread your pack and control the areas for which you get victory points, or you can develop your own pack, and as you develop, you score victory points for the number of walls you have on the map, or for how much they can move. I mean, how fast they are, or how many of them you can move during the same turn, because you can only move 2 walls, 2 spaces each at the start of the game. Later it can be up to 4 spaces, or 4 walls up to 4 spaces. So for this development you score victory points. You can also use these wolves to hunt wild animals. Based on the number of different types that you hunt, you score exponential number of victory points at the end of the game. So you don't need to control areas. You don't need to focus on that. You can hunt wild animals if that's your strategy. But you cannot simply say to yourself, okay, this game I'm going to hunt wild animals. Because other players are in the game as well, and other players maybe have the same plans. And there is a beautiful and very intense interaction on that game, on the map, because you move your packs, obviously. You may take actions which may convert the wolves of the other player to your own color. You need to be careful about that. There is a very simple mechanics of flipping some tiles, and that determines which action, or that doesn't determine which actions, but on which spaces you can take those actions, because there are different terrain types. So you need to flip the corresponding number and corresponding types of tiles. Very simple rule set, because you can only do a few actions. I think 4 or 5 actions in the game. You can obviously move, you can howl and get more wolves. You can develop, you can build lairs, which provide some protection and provide more points for the area control. And I think that's pretty much it. That's all you do in the game. And the way how you do it, how you time it, when you do these actions, which way you go. I think we had analysis paralysis right from the round 1. It seems so simple, but you need to time and plan your tiles really well, because that determines where you can take the actions. Because you can move, you can. But if you cannot end your movement on the specific spaces, that's the problem. If you want to if you want to howl at another wolf, you need to be able to flip those 2 specific terrain types, or tiles with the terrain type. If you don't, you may not howl at that wolf. So this is what you need to plan really well, and you need to watch other players, and you need to think about what they want to do. Wow, fantastic game. We played it many times already, and I'm so happy that we have it. It's going to be localized into Czech languages as well, so it's going to be more widely available in our region, in our gaming community, and we highly recommend this game. Played it so many times, enjoyed every single game. And again, I said several times that this game I want to focus on something and I'll see how it goes. Never did that. Because of the interaction between players, it always turned out that there were other opportunities worth following. For example, I wanted to hunt, but someone left a high value region area almost free. Yes, I'm going to take it. But since I wanted to control the region, I needed more wolves. So goodbye hunting. I had to change my strategy to develop my skills and actually to be able to move more wolves, more spaces, no more hunting, and vice versa. That's how interactive it is, and that's how you need to react to other players in the game, and that's what I love: simplicity, depth, replayability, high interaction. Wolves is definitely coming to my top 50 games of all time. Definitely, I can see it. Then number two is the game which would be my number one easily if there wasn't a big problem with the game. On the other hand, I played this game 10 times in a short amount of time because this one came to my table in January. And it's Frostpunk. First, I wanted to completely avoid this game because it's a survival game. I don't like survival games. This is not really a type game for me. I'm suffering a lot at my work. I don't need to suffer even more when playing games. So that's the reason I wanted to avoid. And especially, I don't like these like this War of Mine and things like that. That's not the favorite type of game for me. I don't like events which I have no idea what the event is going to, what the outcome of the event is going to be. Sometimes the game is playing tricks with you. No, that's not what I want to do. Those are not my favorite games. But Frostpunk is a completely different type of game. It's a heavy Euro game. I mean, it's a Euro game. It's a resource management. It's a worker placement game. So it is a heavy Euro game and a survival game. I was completely fascinated after playing it for the first time, for the second time, for the third time. Still lost all those games, but I was completely fascinated how cleverly it is designed. I didn't feel in the first 2, 3, 4 rounds, I didn't feel like I'm having issues. I was trying to build my engine. Only in round 7, 8, I realized that I lost the game in round 3 already because I did not build the engine early enough, or I let just too many people to get sick. So I didn't feel like the events are killing me. Sometimes the events were positive, giving me some rewards, sometimes not. But I didn't feel like the game is extremely punishing, and every single card, every single event that comes out is simply making things extremely difficult and more difficult for me. I didn't have that feeling in this game. I felt like I need to start building up my engine, and once I do that correctly, I will win the game. So I played the game 10 times. Never won the game. And that's the reason why it's not number one, and that's the reason why I'm not sure this is going to make my top 50 games of all time. This game is extremely difficult. And I'm talking about the basic difficulty, or it's called normal difficulty, first scenario. I know that I didn't play optimally, of course. Otherwise I would have won. But I'm not a bad player. And yet I was not able to win this game 10 times in a row. And I haven't played it since. I want to come back to the game. But I just lost all those games. And it's a basic, simple, standard, it's called normal difficulty first scenario. What is the heavy difficulty in other scenarios if I'm not able to win the basic difficulty? I'm not a fan of losing the game 20 times until I finally win the game. No. I'm looking at Spirit Island, for example. That's a beautiful example how you can adjust difficulty in the game. You can make it as difficult as you want for your current situation, for your current mood, for the level of skill that you have with the game. I know that the designers came with some easy difficulty cards, but that didn't save it for me. I mean, I lost interest after losing the game 10 times. I just lost interest. I watched or I read some session reports on Board Game Geek to see how other players won the game, and I see that there are decisions that are maybe just not natural for me. Yes, I understood in game 4 or 5 that sometimes it's not a good idea to simply let people go in, people that just well they found somewhere. The more people you have, the more people you need to feed, the more people need shelters. So yeah, they came, I saved them, and I have to tell them go away. I understand thematically, that's just not a natural decision from me, because the game is trying to make me save those people, and then actually the game wants me to send them away. So why do I do that? In other cases, especially first 2-3 rounds of the game, I understood that it's almost imperative to keep as many workers working, and not because of some events. Yes, there's an event which if I spend a worker now, so if that worker is going to investigate a light in the snow, I will not have that worker now, but maybe 1 or 2 rounds later I will get a free how is it called, steam core, which is a valuable resource. If I don't have it, this would be a good way, but I'm losing a worker which should have done something really important in those first 2 or 3 rounds. That worker should have helped build the engine for the wood generation or coal generation. So there's an event which can give me some positive outcome, but I'm not taking that. I have to take the negative outcome or the negative implication of the event, just to keep my worker that will do some simple action. Yeah. So maybe this is the thing which is not resonating well with my nature, but especially those situations when I save some people and I simply need to tell them just go away. Why did I save them when I need to send them away? And those are the decisions that usually cost me the game. So I enjoy the design. This is how you do thematic game, highly thematic Euro game. Euro game. Highly thematic Euro game. Everything makes sense in this game. It's so perfectly connected. I love everything about this game. I love everything about this game except for the insane difficulty and the inability to actually adjust the difficulty. So that's the reason why it's not number 1, but I enjoyed it. Just the fact that I played it 10 times, although I didn't finish most of the games, because in round 6 I saw, okay, this is completely wrong. I can stop it, reset the game, start over, and make it to round 7, when again I stop the game because I see I'm losing already. Come back to round 1, reset the game. That's how like half of my games ended up. So that's Frostpunk, the game I love and hate at the same time, and I don't know if I hate it more than I love it, or I love it more than I hate it. I don't know, but at the same time, it's a very controversial game, I would say. I still want to win the game one day, but when it's going to be, I don't know. So that was my number 2, and number one is a game which I played many times and had fun every single time playing the game. And it's Heat. This game came out of nowhere for me. I didn't know that it's coming. I love racing games. This for me, this is a best racing game I have ever played by far. Much better Much better game than Rallyman, much better game than Formula D and other racing games, which were fun as well. But this one beautifully simulates the rhythm, the racing rhythm through corners. This game is not about finding a perfect racing line. This game is not about some specific technical aspect. This is about pure fun, finding the rhythm of your race. Those heat cards are fantastic way how to manage the risk or the level of risk or level of how to say um, of reaching the limits of your race or of your driving. If you want, you can go easy, save these cards for later, because you use these cards to accelerate faster. You use these cards to cut the corners faster, or to go through the corners with a higher speed. You use these cards for some other action, some other reasons in the game, but you need them to actually drive at the limit or even beyond the limit a little bit. And you need to ease a little bit if you want to save these cards, because your engine is getting very hot. You need to bring those cards back to your deck. So you have much more limited options when you are running out of these cards. And knowing when exactly to use them, when to save them, that's the beauty of the game. Then, again, it's a simple game, relatively simple game. I played it with the heavy gamers, I played it with the complete newcomers to the hobby, and they loved it. I played it with people with different skill levels, and you can easily adjust the skill or the difficulty for you by adjusting the number of heat cards you have. So we played it with all kinds of players, as I said, gamers, non-gamers, and we had fun all the time. That's the reason why this is clearly and easily my number one game of the last year, and definitely coming to my top 25 maybe of all the games of all time, because this is so easy to explain, easy to set up, easy to tear down, and all the time it's a lots of fun. And when you use these upgraded cards, having them used in a specific situation, when you use those media cards with again other special effects, wow, you can play a championship in about 3-4 hours. I mean, the whole championship, 3 races in about 3 to 4 hours. I'm looking forward for more tracks. And by the way, whoever designed the bots, I mean the automated cars in the game, deserves a Nobel Prize for gaming board game design, in my opinion. That's how the automated players should work in the board games. So simple, so easy. So every single game I can have the full 6 cards. I mean, full roster of 6 cards in the game. So it doesn't feel like there's a 2-player game and we only have 2 cards on the entire track. No, 6 cards with the expansion that I'm expecting because of the of the insert, having 8 cars on the track. Wow, that would be fantastic. And how you manipulate, how you move your automated cars, just look at a card, move them, done, 2 seconds. And they make sense. They're not easy to beat, but they're not overly difficult. You can make them more difficult if you want to. But even if you play a solo game, if you play a 2-player game, you don't have to control 3-4 cars. Just control one. Every other car controlled by the game, and that control takes just a couple of seconds. Fantastic. So Heat number 1 for me for last year. I thought for a while that Frostpunk will become my number 1, but as I said, after losing so many games, it just it didn't make it, and so Heat is number 1. That's it. There are a few other things that I want to mention, and let me say that last year there's a game which I backed on a Kickstarter. Then it was delivered. I opened the rule book, and after first page, it wasn't even it wasn't rules. It was a thematic introduction to the game. I closed it and sold the game because it felt to me so stupid. Sorry to say that, so stupid, the theme, that I simply closed it and sold the game immediately without even looking at the rules. And then when I finally played the game this year, I heavily regretted what I did. And I'm talking about Redlands. If you look at the if you look at the first page, a thematic introduction is something like, okay, we have destroyed a planet. All we have left now is a little bit of water, and we have the water. The other clan or whatever it is, they don't. So they're going to attack us. So we need to attack first, and we need to attack hard and fast. So thematically, we are so stupid as a humanity, as a human beings, that we destroy the planet. All we have left is water. So what do? What kind of ideas we have? We're still going to destroy whatever is left. We're still going to destroy other people, other remaining clans, because that's what we do. We just destroy. So that's how stupid it sounded to me. That's why I simply sold the game. Just based on the theme. And then when I finally played the game this year, I was so impressed with how fantastic the gameplay is. I still not a huge fan of the theme, but I can get over the theme. But the gameplay is phenomenal. If I would have played this game previous year, it would have definitely been in my top 3. I don't know if this would be my top 3 or 2 or number 1, because I had Might Management as number 1, Arcanova as number 2, and this would be, I don't know, based on my mood, it would have been maybe number 1 of the year, if not number 3 at worst. So that's how much I love Redlands. I actually have 3 copies now. 2 of them are localized because we got them from 2 different sources, and I found a deluxe copy, English copy as well, because sometimes we have friends and people coming who don't speak Slovak language, so for them we have this English copy. That's how much we love the game, and especially how much I love the game. So I wanted to give a honorable mention to Redlands for previous year, for 2021. This would be there, and there are 2 more games which I want to mention for 2022, which didn't make it to my list for various reasons. First, Scout. The reason why this game didn't make it to my list is that originally this was released in 2019, I think 2019. In 2022, it was reskinned. I think it looks more beautiful. It's still the same game. I love the game so much that this would be even, again, very simple game. This would be in my top 5 for 2022. But it was originally published in 2019. But we enjoyed this game a lot. Another trick-taking game with a beautiful twist, simple rules, looks really nice. We have so much fun with this game. So Scout, it would have been in my list if it was originally released in 2022. And there's another one called Turing Machine. This is a puzzle game, which we didn't enjoy too much playing competitively, but I enjoyed myself as a solo game. I like puzzle games, and this is very quick, easy, with beautiful, clever idea. Not many people, there are people who were not really fans of this system and puzzle system. So I was kind of left alone here. I liked it a lot. The fact it's not on the list is that we just didn't have a chance to play it enough as a multiplayer game. But I enjoyed it myself as a puzzle. But so that's why I was struggling to put it on a list, whether or not. Anyway, honorable mention to Turing Machine. Really cleverly designed, puzzle game, which also can be played solo, and I enjoyed a lot. And finally, I said that I will mention some heavy Euro games at the end of the video, and I have quite a lot of them here because I think people will ask me, okay, where is Revive? Where is Lacrimosa? Where is Endless Winter? Where is Terracotta Army, Woodcraft, and other games? All these games they're good, but I didn't enjoy them. I feel like they don't bring anything new, not innovative at all. Themeless, although some people would say there is a theme, Lacrimosa, this Mozart, and writing the Requiem. No, I didn't feel the theme in these games at all. And all these games feel to me like I'm doing the same thing. For example, Revive, Lacrimosa, but it was the same with Boon Lake and other games. Play a card. You may get some bonuses depending on which side of the card you play. You do the action, then you get the bonuses, then you move on some tracks, then you move on the central map, then you get some free actions. Based on the free actions, you get some resources. Based on the resource, because you have some resources, you can activate some bonuses on some of your tokens. And the games are themeless, non-interactive at all, or with minimum interaction. They provide a lot of opportunities for comboing, making a combo on your turn, but other players are suffering because they just wait for you. We had a 4-player game of Revive, and we have a pizza place 1 minute walking from our studio. I finished my turn, went to the pizza place, ordered pizza, waited for it there, brought it back when it was finished, brought it back to the studio, and it still wasn't my turn. Even worse, whatever happened in the game during the time when I was gone had absolutely no effect on my turn. It didn't have any impact. Someone might say that on the map, someone maybe populated a space which would give me interesting bonuses. Okay, there are 5 others. Because I'm doing 6, 7, 8 mini actions during my turn, whether I take 2 or 3 bonuses doesn't really matter. So no interaction. I didn't care about what other players are doing in the game, and those turns took a long time, 3-4 minutes every turn if you want the thing, if you want to thing it out, and if you want to make the best combo possible, because I enjoyed making that combo and finding the ways how to combine those mini actions for chain reactions and chaining mini actions. That's fun for me. And then I can be gone. I can go out for 10 minutes and do nothing and didn't even care what other people are doing. Very similar feelings for Lacrimosa and some other games as well. And that's the reason why I like them, but for me they're not simply high enough to be in my top 25. So I'm not saying these games are bad. I'm not saying at all. I have even recommended Revive and Lacrimosa. And they look nice, and I enjoyed playing them once, twice. Definitely not as a 4-player games. No, not at all. Never ever. As a 2-player game, okay, maybe. But as a 2-player game, there are many better 2-player games than this one. And I have repeated many times in this video that I'm getting there, that I like simplicity, simple rules, simple rule set, but with lots of replayability, lots of depth in the game, and various strategic options. And I found games, quite a few games that provided me with this, and I enjoyed them much more than those heavy Euro games, which consume the entire table, take ages to set up, and then tear down. And I just didn't have as much fun as with these other games. I mean, First Red, is the First Red for me better than Revive and Lacrimosa? Much better. I had so much more fun with First Red than with games like Revive, Lacrimosa, Endless Winter. We enjoyed Endless Winter, but again, you need a big table. You need an air place to to set the game up. So I think I'm getting older and I'm enjoying simple and deep games more and more and more, rather than big, heavy, sprawling Euro games, which take ages to set up and tear down, which actually applies for Frostpunk as well. But I bought an insert, specific insert for Frostpunk, which reduced the setup by 50% setup time. Yet it still requires a lot of time to set up, tear down. It requires a lot of table space. So that's my answer to definitely quite a lot of games that you may ask for. Where is such and such game? Lacrimosa, Revive, Endless Winter, Terracotta Army, Hamlet, Deal with the Devil, Woodcraft, and games like this. We played them. I enjoyed them, but they just didn't make it to my top 25. So that's it. That's the end of my list. Thank you very much for watching. I'm eager to hear what your top 10 of 2021, 2022 would be. I would be happy to answer your questions. If you ask me about some games, what do I think about the such and such games? I'll try to respond to as many questions as possible. So again, thank you very much. It was my top 25 games of 2022, published in 2022. In a couple of months, we will do our top 50 games of all time again for this year, and we are preparing in Slovak language. We are preparing some top 10 specific thematic lists. I will definitely then do the same lists in English language as well. We are, for example, preparing the best two-player card games, like Redlands, for example, like Mindbug. Those are some of those games. So we will prepare this kind of list, and there are other thematic lists that we have in mind. So that will follow in next couple of months. Until then, thank you very much for watching. You've been watching Nithrania YouTube channel. My name is Branislav Berec, and hope to see you next time with some other top 10 or top 25 or whatever top list. Thank you.